Hey guys, here's your review over standard 2 over quadratic equations. Okay, the first thing we need to do is know how to graph them. So this problem here is in standard form. Anytime I don't have any parentheses, that's the form it's going to take, standard form. And I have this negative in front, so it needs to look like that. Okay. So obviously the most important point I need to find is the middle, and the formula then is opposite of b divided by 2a. Okay, so the opposite of b is negative 10, and then I take my a, negative 5 times 2, and that's also negative 10, so that equals 1. So my middle x point's a 1, and then we go up 1 and down 1. Okay, then we plug that in, so negative 5 and then 2 to the second power plus 10 and then 2 plus 2, and that gives me 2. Now I'm going to plug 1 in, so negative 5 and then 1, second power plus 10 and then 1 plus 2, and that gives me 7, and I'm hoping that this is 2 as well, and it actually is, because you can kind of tell, because if you take that times 0, that times 0, all that's left is 2. So 2, 2, 1, 7, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then 0, 2. Okay, so that's my parabola. It's kind of a scrawny little thing, but that's okay. Okay, my next parabola, it's a parabola, but it's in vertex form. Okay, and we have a positive, so it's going to look like that. Now, when they give me parentheses, I need to use the parentheses. In this case, x plus 3, I'm going to set that equal to 0. So I take away 3, and I get negative 3. So negative 3 is my vertex, and then 1 higher, 1 lower. Okay, so 4 and then negative 2 plus 3 to the second power minus 3 is 1. I think that's 1 as well. And that's negative 3. Okay, so now I'm in a good position to graph it. So I'm left 2, up 1. Left 3, down 1, 2, 3. Left 4. Up 1, and I've got my parabola. Okay, and then the last graph we're going to do, that is a quadratic equation. It's a parabola because you got two x's. The product of two x's makes a second powered x. So this is in factored form. Okay, you don't want to multiply it out. Okay, you have a positive in front. Okay, you want to leave it in factored form. And then we're going to use our parentheses, both of them, to get some points on my table. So minus 1, the parentheses actually tell me what are called the zeros of the function. So negative 1 and negative 5, I use those as my side points, and the middle is going to give me the average. So negative 1 plus negative 5 is negative 6. And I divide that in half, it's negative 3. Okay, so I've got 3 and then negative 1 plus 1, negative 1 plus 5, and you're going to get 0. That's what factored form does. It tells you the zeros of the equation. And now I put negative 3 in. Now this answer here is going to be, I mean, kind of extreme, but that's okay. Not really on that one, negative 12. So left 1. Left 3, and then down 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12. Just count by twos. I'll be able to tell. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay? And that concludes our graphing of these. Okay? Now the next part we are just factoring. Okay? So to factor, you don't put x equals for these. These aren't equations. Okay? These are just factoring problems. So there's 3 terms, so the plan is to do a GCF and then a T. So my GCF, bad looking box, but that's okay. then my t. We aren't going to have to use the songs. A t should work. Okay, so GCF, do you have a negative in front? Nope. Do you have x on everything? Nope. And your smallest factor's coefficient is 1, so no GCF. ABC, 1 times 20 is positive 20. Sum of 9. Nope. Nope. 3 is not even a factor. 4 and 5, yes. Okay, is A 1? Yes, it is. Okay. If A is not a 1, you need 4 parentheses, but it is, because 1x squared is just x times x. Okay, then 4, 5, and I have a minus 9, so it means I have to have minus 5 for sure, and then sum means the signs are the same. Okay, so x minus 4 times x minus 5, and that's the answer to the problem. Okay, my next problem. There's 2 terms this time, so it's GCF, and then I'm going to see if I have a difference of perfect squares. Okay, I don't need as big a box, that second one, so GCF and then DOPS. GCF, I do have a negative in the front. I don't have x connected to both of them, so I can't put an x, and then 4 and 16, if you think of 4, you got factors of 4, 1, 4, 2, and 2. Now I'm pretty sure both these are divisible by 4, so negative 4 is the GCF. Okay, now I divide by negative 4, and that's going to be 1x to the second, or if you just want to put x to the second, that's fine, and then minus 4. Okay, now the DOP step, I try to see if I have a difference of perfect squares. In the parentheses, 1's plus, 1's minus. Well, we have a minus. 1x squared is x times x, and 4 is 2 times 2. Okay, so x plus 2 and x minus 2, and then that negative 4 we just drop down here. So negative 4 times x plus 2 times x minus 2 is the factorization for that. Okay, next up, we're back to 3 terms, so it's GCF and T. Okay, space parentheses for the GCF possibly, then my T box. Remember, my directions are to factors, so the T chart should work. GCF, I don't have a negative, I don't have x on everything. I've got 6 as my smallest coefficient, and those are all the factors of 6. Now these will not divide by 6 or 3 or 2, and 1 is pointless unless I've had to put a negative, so no. Okay, so 6 times 12 is positive 72, and it's going to be a sum of 17. That's 73, 2 and 36, no. 3 and 24, no. 4 and 18, no, it's 22, I'm getting closer. 72 divided by 5 is a decimal. 72 divided by 6 is 12, that's 18. It's close, but not quite. 7's not a factor, then we get 8 and 9, okay? 8 and plus 9 is 17. Now, is our A equal to 1 up here? No. A equals 6, so because A is not a 1, I need 4 parentheses to factor it correctly. Now we want to place the 6 in front of both my x's, and then we're going to go with 8 and 9, okay? So I have a minus 17, so I have to have minus 9, okay? Sum means they're the same, and then we can divide that by 2, and that's 3x minus 4. Divide that by 3, that's 2x minus 3. Okay, I didn't have a GCF, so that's my answer, 3x minus 4 times 2x minus 3. Okay, and then finally, GCF and DOPS. GCF, because there's 2 terms. DOPS. Okay, GCF. I don't have a negative in front. I do have x on everything. 5 and 25. So let's take 5. We got 1 and 5. Now both these are divisible by 5, so 5x. Now I go divide by 5x, and I end up with 1x or x, then plus 5. Now for dots, plus minus, but I quickly see I have a plus sign, so that automatically disqualifies the dots. So this is my answer here, 5x times 1x plus 5. Okay, now in the next portion of this, we have some equations to solve. There's 6 of them on this. They all have 2 answers to find. Okay, first I need to know the technique. It might be factoring, it might be like terms, or it might be Q. Okay, any of those 3. Now in this I got x a second, and I've got regular x, so this is a factoring problem. On factoring problems I need to make sure I have a 0, which I do. So I set up my plan. There's 3 terms, so it'd be GCF T. So GCF and T. And then is A going to be equal to 1? Okay. GCF, well, I don't have a negative. I don't have X on everything, and then 1's my smallest, so there can't be a GCF. 1 times 30 is positive 30, and sum of 11. Okay. 1 and 30, no. 2 and 15 is 17. 3 and 10 is 13. 4 is not a factor, and then 5 and 6. So 5 plus 6 is 11. Is my A equal to 1? Yeah, it is actually. So I got X times X, and then 5 times 6. So I got plus 11, so plus 6, and a sum means they're the same, so plus 5. So either x plus 5 can equal 0 or x plus 6 could equal 0. So I minus 5 from both sides, and I get negative 5 for my first solution, minus 6. I get negative 6 for my second solution. Okay, my next problem, there's 2 answers. Now how am I going to solve this? I've got that, and I've got that, so that's going to be another factoring problem. And do I have my 0? I do. And then 2 terms would be GCF, and then see if you have a difference of perfect squares. So GCF and then DOPS. Okay, GCF, do you have a negative in the front? No, you don't. You got X on everything? Yeah, actually you do. And then 9, 1, 9, 2's a decimal, and then 3 and 3. We can divide those both by 9, so 9x. So it's going to be 1x minus 2. And then the DOPS, I have a minus, but 1x is not a perfect square, so don't have that. Okay. So this is all the factoring I can do. So either 9x can equal 0. Or 1x minus 2 can equal 0. So I divide by 9, I get 0. Plus 2, I get 2. 0 and 2. Okay, my next problem. 2 answers. Now I got to decide what I need to do to find them. I got the x squared and the regular x, so that's another factoring. And the kind of factoring, since I have a 0, there's 3 terms, so it's GCF and the T chart. Okay, so GCF and the T table. Okay, GCF, well, I don't have a negative. I don't have X on all of them, so let's check out 3. The only factors of 3 are 1 and 3. And we can't divide these all by 3. And then don't use 1 unless I've had to put a negative there, which I didn't, so that's no GCF. So 8 times negative 3 is negative 24. Searching for a difference, that would equal 10. 1 and 24, no. 2 and 12, there you go. Okay, Is a equal to 1? Yes. Or no, a equals 8. So to factor it correctly, I need 4 parentheses. So I go x and I apply an 8 in front of both x's. Not going to stay 8, but better not. 2 and 12. So since I have plus 10x, I need a plus 12, and a difference means they're different, opposite. So that's going to become 4x minus 1, because I divide by 2, and that can be divided by 4, so that's 2x plus 3. There was no GCF, okay? So 4x minus 1 equals 0, 2x plus 3 equals 0. So plus 1, 4x equals 1, divide by 4. I'm just going to keep that as 1/4 for one of my answers. Minus 3, 2x equals negative 3. And negative 3 over 2 can be my second answer. Okay, my next problem, 2 answers. Now, all we have is an x squared, so that's going to be a like terms deal. So I box that up, and I plus 2 to both sides. So 5x to the second equals 400. Then I divide by 5. X to the second equals 80. Now we need to square root both sides, so x equals plus or minus. Now I need to take 80 over here and see if I can divide by something on the board. So 80 divided by 64 is a fail. 80 divided by 36, fail. 25, nope. 16, bingo. So I divided by 6, I need to put 16 and 5 in the square roots. And in that order, and the square root of 16 is 4, okay? So 4 square roots of 5. So 4 square roots of 5, negative 4 square roots of 5. Okay, my next problem, 2 answers. How am I going to find them? Well, I've got x second, another x second, and I got regular x, so I'm going to need to use factoring, but I'm not sure what I'm going to do until I get one side equal to 0. So I minus 1x squared, and then I plus 7x. There's nowhere to plus 7x, so it goes right here. So now my new equation is 3x to the second plus 7x plus 3 equals 0. Okay, sorry, that's bad writing. 3x second plus 3x plus 3. Okay, now I can see we have 3 terms, so GCF T. So the GCF and the T. Okay, so GCF, I don't have a negative in front, I don't have x on everything. 3 is my smallest coefficient, and I can't really divide all those by 3, so there is no GCF. Okay, so forget that. 3 times 3 is positive 9, and I'm looking for a sum of 7. Nope, that's 10. 2 and then 3 and 3, no, that's 6. So there's no, I can't use that, so I need to use my song. So opposite of B, plus or minus C square root, B squared, so I got 7 to the second, minus a 4, A is 3, C is 3, and then 2 and 3, okay? So I've got negative 7 plus or minus. I'll figure out the square root in a second, and that's 6. Now, if you have one of these kinds of calculators, you can roll that stuff in. So 7 to the second minus 4, 3, and 3. And I got 13. So the square root of 13. Now let me show you how it works here. I take 7 times itself. I take 4 times 3 times 3. So that's 49, 36, and that's 13. Now 13 does not divide by any of that stuff up there. It's a prime square root, so I just keep it square root 13. Now there's a few of you who are doing it the other way, and that's fine. I'll accept that. Negative 7 plus square root 13 over 6. Negative 7 minus the square root 13 over 6. Okay, then my last problem, there's two answers, but this time it's in vertex form with that parentheses, so I'm going to be using the q. So I replace that with q, so q and then 3q to the second equals 48. Must divide by 3 first. Q to the second is 16, and I square root both sides. So q equals plus or minus 4. Those are not our answers though. We need to use this table because I can be equal to 4 or negative 4. And now I bring back my x minus 4. So I plus 4, x equals 8. There's your first answer. Plus 4, x equals 0. Okay, now here are my story problems. A baseball is hit up into the air from an initial height of 4 feet above the ground. It shoots up in the air with a vertical velocity of 75 feet per second. Okay, so I know that this is a parabola, okay? Now I write the gravity equation, so negative 16x squared plus 75x plus 4 equals y. Okay, now the maximum height is right here, and I need to find the x and the y. So to find the x, it's always opposite of b divided by 2 times a. Okay, so a, b, and I don't really need c. Opposite of b is negative 75, and then I multiply that by 2, it's negative 32. Negative 75 divided by negative 32 is going to be 2.34. Okay, that's the time it took to hit your max height. Now you got to insert 2.34 in for those x's, and that will equal y. I ended up with 92 approximately, so 92 feet is the max height. You put a 92 in there. Alright, now my next problem, after how many seconds does a baseball reach a height of 0 feet? So I mark that, 0 feet. So negative 16x squared plus 75x plus 4 equals y. And we put 0 feet in for y. Now I got to figure out x. Now it has 2 answers, okay, and 3 terms. So I'm going to go with the GCF and the T table. Okay, GCF first. We have a negative in front. We don't have x on everything. 4 is my smallest coefficient number. You can't divide by 4 or 2, so you got to use the 1 and factor out negative 1. So when I divide by negative 1, the signs just change. So 16x squared minus 75x minus 4. So negative 64, that's what you get. That's what A times C difference of 75. That's impossible, okay? Because 1 and 64 is not a difference of 75, so we need to go to our song. Opposite of b, plus or minus c square root. So negative 75, and then 4, a is positive 16, remember we're going from here, negative 4, and then 2 times 16, okay. So I've got 75 plus or minus, and then that's 32. Now I got to figure out the square root. Okay, so negative 75 times negative 75, and then 4 times 16 times negative 4. 5,625 minus 4 times 16 times negative 4 is negative 256. So I need to plus that. 5881. Now don't use the perfect squares on the board. You just need to approximate that. So I square root 5881, and that's going to be 77. So I just put a 77 there. I take 75 plus 77 and then divide by 32, 4.75. So 4.75 seconds, that's logical. 75 minus 77, negative 0.06. Okay, negative 0.06 is not a legit answer. That's our one. So again, I put the 0 in, then GCFT, the T didn't work, and then I go to my solve. Okay, last problem. An online music store sells 4,000 songs in a day when it charges $1 per song. For each 5-cent increase in price, 80 fewer songs will be sold. The store feels they can gain more revenue by doing this. How many changes in price should the store make to maximize its revenue, and what is the max revenue? So I put max revenue down here at the bottom. There is no point in doing anything here because we know it's a parabola. Maximum. I need to find the x, and the formula for the x is opposite of b divided by 2 times a. Now I need to write an equation. The base equation for a revenue is the money we're charging multiplied by the number of items that we sell. So revenue is y, and then I look up my money. So I've got $1.05. Those are like terms, they have to go together. So we start at $1. We're increasing by 5 cents, but you increase it repeatedly, so that's x. I don't know how many times that happens. And the items are the 4,000 and the 80. So 4,000 minus 80x, and that's a negative 80. Okay, remember that. Now this is in factored form. Now to be able to do B and A, I need it in standard form, so I need to multiply. So I've got 1 times 4,000, 1 times negative 80x, 0.05x times 4,000, and 0.05x times negative 80x. So this gives me a 4,000, negative 80x, 200x, and negative 4x to the second power. So negative 4x to the second power, that's my A term. Then I collect these like terms. Negative 80 plus 200 is 120x, and that's B plus 4,000. Okay? So the opposite of B is negative 120. And I take my A times 2, it's negative 8. Then I find the quotient. Negative divided by negative is a positive, and it's 15. So that's how many price changes. Now I just plug the 15s in for the x. When I'm finding the max point, we don't use the song. Okay? You don't want to do that. 4,900. Okay. So the max revenue is $4,900. Okay, that's really all I have to say. I hope it's been informative, and we'll work on that together in class tomorrow.